Hey guys, welcome back to DMAC Customs on YouTube. Dave here in the garage, squirty bottle with soapy water on it. That's right, I'm going to wash the car. Not really, but what I'm doing is trying to find my leak in my ear ride sort of thing. I've got it up off the ground at the moment, and if you're going back a couple of videos, I was kind of all excited because it stayed up all by itself for a whole week, and then the very next day it sank overnight after switching it back on and stuff. So I suspected the pressure release valve that goes in the tank, and I've just been around and done a little bit of squirting and stuff looking for leaks in the air system. I'm confident it's not at the bag fittings, but I suspected this valve, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so if you have a look at this, we've got 140 odd pounds in there at the moment, and she's up off the ground on, you know, about ride height sort of thing. And I've been around and I've sprayed all of these fittings and all of these fittings and all of the fittings going everywhere, and the only one I can see anything coming out of is this little jammer here. See how sensitive it is to hear it? So hang on, I'll just cover that cable up, try and minimise the amount of water getting into that. You can see that bubble coming out of that hole there. I don't think it's my sealing tape, I think it is the valve itself. So I'm going to pull that out and pull it apart, see how it works. Okay, so the weirdest thing just happened. As I drained the tank, the front came down. Back's still up, still got air in the back bags, but the whole front just on the bump stops. So that makes me think, not only is there a leak at that valve, but there's something going on with the valve block. Maybe one of the channels or solenoids is stuck open or something like that, or when I put it back together something didn't go quite right, because that's really weird. But it's definitely both front corners, so the whole front circuit come down. Yeah, I think it's my knees. Yeah, the whole thing is now on the ground at the front. What the? Okay, so got my little safety valve out. I had to take the yellow cover and the key ring thing off it to get a socket over it, but this is like a locking nut, like a little thin locking nut here, and then you can obviously unscrew this and stuff. So I'm going to investigate it as you do, as to how it works. The other sort of issue that I just noticed when I pulled that out, the last sort of 20 pounds came out of the tank, and then the back dropped down, so the back was being sort of held up by just, you know, 20 psi sort of thing. It doesn't really work how I thought it would, to be fair. I thought yeah, I thought, like, as long as those, I thought it was kind of like all closed systems. It's really weird. It's not, it feels like the main sort of tank system is still kind of connected to all four corners somehow, but I don't know, I'll have to investigate it a bit further. It just isn't working how my logic said it should work. So I mean, maybe we have to put this in the tank and not in the valve block, and just block off that port. Don't know how I'm going to do that. I need to get another T or something to be able to do that. Worst case scenario, I could take that gauge out that's in the tank, since I do have the digital gauge, and it is just a little bit of an optional extra. But yeah, I don't know, maybe put it in there. I don't know, but anyway, we'll pull this apart and have a look. The first thing I'm going to do is put this mark here, just to kind of tell me roughly where it was situated from the factory, if you know what I'm saying. Just in case I have to put it back where it started from, you know. So undo that little locky thing, and that instantly moved. I'd say there's springs and stuff in here, so I have to be careful. Yep, that's it. Not really much to it. No. Oh yeah, there's a little rubber seal on there, so I'd say doesn't appear to be any junk or anything in there. I would say, looking at this, it just needs a little more tension on it. So with that being said, oh yeah, that's cross-threaded on there. Of course it is. Look at that, that's all butchered on. How am I going to get that off? Okay, no, it's not cross-threaded. It's just a really not a great sort of thread on there, but so I would say just winding it down a little more should give me what I'm after in that respect. I've already rubbed off my pin mark, or half of it. Lock that down again. I think that should be it. Alright, I'll retape this and put it back in and have a look, see what it does. Actually, I just had a thought, just popped into my head as I was taking the tape off this. Do those valve manifolds, those air manifolds, need to have back pressure on them, you know, tank pressure on them to hold the, like the four corner valves shut? If you know what I'm saying. So if there's no tank pressure, there's nothing holding those four corners, you know, the solenoids shut. It's just a thought. I don't know if that's how they work or not. Or do they need to have kind of voltage on them? Nah, surely not. But yeah, that's what I was just wondering, whether it needs to have that back pressure, like you need to have air in the tank to be able to hold the valves shut so they don't leak back out of the system, if you know what I'm saying. Maybe? I don't know. Food for thought. Okay, so eagle-eyed folk might have noticed that positive wire came off the thingamy, you know, so just get that fixed up. Okay, so got a new pin on there. Sweet. So that hopefully will work in that again now. So we'll fire the compressor up, let it all charge up again, and see what happens. Back in a wee bit. Alright, so we've got a tank all charged up. According to that gauge, it's got 150 psi in it. We'll have a look at the digital gauge. That's saying 149. Actually, that back gauge didn't actually say 150, it said 140 something and change. So then it's sitting there holding at that. I've pumped up the front and rear, got 32 in the rear, 64-ish in the front. getting a lot of variances jumping around there. But when you give it a bit of a rock, it doesn't seem to be affecting the tank. So if I thought it was back feeding into the tank through the four corners, which it would need to do to all leak out, you would get the tank pressure fluctuating with that back pressure coming in, you would think, right? And you also wouldn't be able to hold normal, you know, your 30 or 60 pound or whatever you've got in the other. So let's have a little bit of a okay, we don't seem to be having any little bubbles so far that I can see from this side. And giving it a little gentle wiggle. Oh, fuck. Excuse my French. That seems heaps more sort of stable on there, whether it's still rated at 180 psi. It's a different story. I would say it's from the factory, it's probably only set at, maybe if you're lucky, 160. So maybe it was just put together and then sent out. Maybe they don't calibrate them, I don't know, but that definitely seems more resistant to before. I could just touch that and it would be hissing and doing stuff, whereas now we seem to be a bit better. So that might have been it. Hopefully we'll let that sit, see what happens. Okay, so let me know down in the comments if you've got experience with these valve manifolds and if that's how they work. Do they need to have that tank pressure to hold the valves shut? Just a thought. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Is that how they work? It's just a theory in my head, but I don't know for certain, because when I took it apart you don't really get to see. You just got those magnetic poles that come up out of the blocks. I don't really know how they work past that, you know, where the actual opening and closing bits, how they work. So should have taken it further apart, but I didn't want to mess with it any more than I had to be fair, the other week when I was repinning everything and stuff. And speaking of which, if you remember correctly, I don't like those little controllers down there. I just, you know, they're just, yeah. So I have kind of a plan to kind of reinstate my controls back into my center console, which was the original plan with the Air Technologies system, and I even built my console kind of around it. So if you come in here, that's where the control panel was due to mount on my console. So, and of course now I don't have that kind of control anymore. So what I'm thinking of doing is mounting my switches into that center console. So we'll have a look at that, we'll pull that out and see what we can do with it. Okay, so if you have been on the channel for ages, like probably 3 or so years ago, I made this center console, which is, you know, when my shifter is going to be situated, handbrake comes out here, and it's got a little cubby thing there, which you lift that thing out there to get to how you bolt it in. It bolts up under the dash from the top. They're threaded, so that kind of mounts back here and mounts there, and that kind of goes down in between the seats. Now obviously it's not ready to go in, it needs to be painted, and this thing's, my idea was to put an upholstered kind of pad on the top, like an elbow pad of some sort. I don't really know much about upholstery, so I don't quite know how that's going to work. It still need to be, you know, smoothed out, and you know, we've got pinholes and all sorts of crap in there from when it was all welded together. But my plan was for my, you know, Air Technologies unit to just get bolted in there, a stereo unit to get bolted in there, which I have, by the way. I haven't tried it yet. I want to kind of try it, wire it up and see what it sort of is like before I cut things. But yeah, so my plan was to have my controller in here. It had the little screen, it had the buttons off to the side, and it fit perfectly. But now we're not using that, so I want to put my switches in there. And after buying that controller that I got, I thought I was going to be able to pull that apart like I have done in the past once. No expert, by the way. But this has got like a circuit board thing in it, that one there, and it's all soldered together, and the little toggle switches are all soldered in there. What I did was I went shopping and bought some stuff. Needed some more heat shrink, so I bought some of that. Needed some Sharpies, so I bought some of them, some sharper ones. And needed some more tape, so I bought some more of that. But also bought a whole bunch of these little toggle switches. So we're back to wiring, if I can figure it out, how to make it work. So I've got 10 toggle switches, but I only need 7. So I've got a couple of spares, and put all the stuff away. And a whole pile of these to, you know, put on the back of the switches. Hopefully got enough. Okay, so rather than cutting up my controller that I know that works, I'm going to, this is the harness that came with that manifold, so I'm going to use that and make a whole new kind of harness for this setup and hopefully it all works. So I just got to de-loom it now, which I think was just decorative mostly. It's pretty much just taping this red wire to all the other stuff. So we'll get this kind of organised and be back in 2 shakes of a weasel's tail. Okay, so I've been doing some scavenging, and this is the blue wire that I had hooked up to my control panel before. Now it's kind of computer rated stuff, so I don't know whether it's kind of like the wire gauge is heavy enough. I'm a bit dubious, to be honest, but it has got the correct amount of wires coming through it. I need 8, that many. And this is the harness that came with that manifold, and looking at it and looking what we figured out the pinouts and stuff for it, it's actually not really 100% either, if you know what I mean. So to kind of, with my sort of figuring, if that makes any kind of sense, so I'll have to repin this like I did last time, so that's alright, I'll just get ahead and do that. And there'll be a couple of other changes. This has a your 12 volt key going into the harness, whereas I will take that out and this will just run back. Does this even need to be up this end? Because they work kind of like an earth switch. So yeah, it does. God, hang on, I had it in my head a minute ago. So anyway, this is kind of my thinking. Got these little toggle switches, and they're a rocker switch, and they have 3 prongs. So we have like our 12 volt going into the center prong, and then our up and down, for each, say we're doing it just corner by corner, one corner, so that's the left front corner, so that would be left front down, that'd be left front up. And so what that would do would then take that back down into this harness and into the valve block and kind of earth it out. So it's like an earth switch. What can create the circuit by creating that ground, if you know what I mean. I think that's how it works. So might take a little bit of experimenting, and then I'll figure out how to wire this up. Okay, so got a plan. This is my circuit diagram. Yeah. So I haven't worked out all the colours and stuff yet, but I kind of just been working out how it would work to do a 7 toggle switch controller. I did a little test on the battery just to see how these worked. So when you got to, you know, click it down that way, it fires the opposite pin. So I got to remember that. But I've just been trying to figure out how I can kind of reuse this to some degree, and I'm thinking I might make a panel that mounts underneath it, and just see how it works. I don't want to kind of commit to kind of cutting anything and stuff yet, just to see what it looks like, how it works and stuff like that. So I'm going to try and make a kind of panel that mounts under this, just out of some sort of, it's about 1mm aluminium, and yeah, I've got to figure out if I can cut accurately 7 little rectangle holes in said panel. So yeah, let's kind of get into it, I guess. Purely just tracing around what I've got, so I know my parameters, sort of thing. Is that going to reach in there? No. What I'm thinking is I need it to come out past there, but I want to have a little kind of fold down, so I'm thinking of maybe cutting, yeah, something like so. So it I don't even have to come that far, I guess. If this folds down and that sits on top, that'll kind of hold it in place. So I could just cut something, cut that, and even, it kind of would be better if it was like about there, I guess, and then fold those back just to give it a bit of sort of integrity, if you know what I mean. I'll give it a try anyway, see what it looks like. Pen, these new sharp pens, actually I'll just give this a wipe. My pen works better on it. So, terribly square. As you see, so I want to cut through there to there, fold it on there, cut out there, and then maybe, like I say, I'm not sure if I need that actually out there, so we'll put it in there for now and see what it looks like. Tin snips, goofy spring thing on there. 17mm. And now I want to pretty much replicate that at the bottom for the bottom 4 corners. Short on space to get 7 buttons in here the way I would have liked it, but might be alright. That would be my 4 corners, so then I have to figure out how I can get, you know, like front up, front down, all up, all down, rear up, rear down. I might have to go like that. I was going to try and stack them that way, but there's not enough room, so I might have to go just divide them in that space in there. Alright, so that'll be, cut out that, cut that, cut that, cut that, cut that, cut that, cut that. Don't know how successful I'll be at this, but we can give it a try. So I have to drill all the corners and then figure out how I'm going to actually slice it. Slice it. So that would be left front, right front, left rear, right rear, be front up, all up, all down. Yeah, sorry, all front up and down, all up, all down, rear all up, rear up, rear down. God, confusing. But yeah, so I just got to see whether I can kind of cut those neatly. I have done this once before out of steel from my old C15, but I can't remember how I cut it. I think it took me ages, lots of hand filing and stuff like that, you know, like drill all the corners of these where I want the openings to be. Like so, just inside the corners so I can file them if I need to. In my chair. So I'm gonna got a little cut off wheel on the old Dremel. I'll see whether I can get them to cut cleanishly between the holes. Let's give it a go. Okay, that kind of works. Didn't even break a blade, so that's good. Oh, I'll carry on and get all those cut. They're rough as at the moment, but if I've got some other little Dremel bits that I might be able to kind of take them out to my pencil lines a bit kind of cleaner, you know. So I'll just carry on and get all these done, hopefully not screw it up. Okay, so managed to get through most of it with one little disc, and normally I snap these little discs in a heartbeat, and I managed to grind that one down to nothing. The last couple of seconds of it, it disappeared. Super quick though. So I'm just changing out my little grinding disc. That's all it, gone. That was all that was left of it. Started out life as one of those. As they got smaller, it was actually easier to cut the shorter sides of my openings that I've got to cut, and so I kind of went through and kind of got all those cut, and then as I was going back through the longer sides, it just chewed out and disappeared. So carry on. Okay, so I've switched out to this little carbide piece, and gonna kind of like take out, you know, clean up these holes a bit and see how it goes from there. Okay, so chewing through the batteries, like could only get like aftermarket batteries for this GoPro now because it's obsolete, and it's just rips through them, don't even get much filming done. So I'm gonna save up and buy me a new GoPro eventually. So get over to DMAC Customs and get on there and buy some t-shirts, would you, so I can buy a new GoPro and keep making quality content in my crammed little garage. And yeah, so that's my hustle for this video. But anyway, I got all those cut, and I used that little rotary bit, that little kind of die grindery bit, which is a little hard to control. And then I kind of spat it out and gouged out that front face. Probably could flip it over and do it that way. But yeah, so I'm just going to go through now and hand file them. I was a bit stingy with my measurements, so I'm going to have to open these holes up a bit to get my little toggle switches in there, which is better to cut them too tight than too loose at this point. So I've got to I don't know, I gotta change it. So yeah, so that's closer to, oh, it's fatter at the end, that's why. That's where I should have measured it from. It's closer to 18.5 mil, and I measured 17, I think, didn't I? So put my spectacles on so I can be respectable and see what I'm doing. So if I go 19, do have to take them out quite a bit actually. I think I'm alright width wise, it was just the length of them, you know, the height. Alright, I'll just set about filing those all out. Having a bit of trouble with English again this morning. Must be cold. And yeah, we'll hopefully square them up and make it look a little bit nicer. Okay, so got it so my switches will fit through the holes, I think. I haven't actually fitted any of them in yet, but they get so far, and maybe they're still a bit tight. Yeah, maybe I need to take a little bit out of the centre of each of them. I might mark it and do that. Here was me thinking that I had it sussed, but nah. Yeah, just the little, you can see the little tabby thing on the sides there, that's just kind of binding us up a little bit. So I just need to take a little bit more out in those areas, mark it a little bit better so I can see with my eyeballs. Don't need to be much, it's just enough to get it to squeeze past, and then kind of lock in tight. If you go too far, then your little tabby things don't lock in properly and everything gets a little bit loose and just wants to rattle and stuff like that. And then you have to wrap electrical tape around it to stop it rattling, and that's just a little hokey, you know what I'm saying. Go like that. Could I do it with that file? Yep, right, I'll get ahead, get those done. Filing, it's been at this for a little while. Damn it. A bit loose. A bit too much out of them. God, jeez, little winkies. Well, that one's nice. Yeah, you can see I've taken a little bit too much out. Damn it. But not the end of the world. If I painted it, it would probably close up a lot of this. Should I paint this? Paint this. Should I paint it? I wasn't planning to. That one's a bit loose, yeah. Okay, I've taken too much out. Oh, came all this way and then screwed it up at the end. Yoy. Yeah, I can see that. Some of them are alright, but maybe I'll wrap it in vinyl. That's an idea. That'll give me a little bit more thickness. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. What have I got that would look sweet? Probably just black or something. But yeah, so that's my panel kind of cut a little bit oversized now. So I'm going to go and have some lunch because I'm really hungry. See, it's like Superman and Clark Kent. And yeah, they come back, kind of put some of this crap away and then go to the next step on that. Okay, so had my lunch, bit of leftovers from last night, or hopefully it was last night, and yeah, so I'm just kind of giving this a bit of a, I don't know why, a bit of a sand. I'm gonna basically put a piece of vinyl over it, you know, like computer lettering vinyl, you know, that self-adhesive sort of stuff. and just kind of wrap it in that, and that'll put a little, I'll tuck it in and around, it'll give it a little bit more thickness on the inside again to hopefully hold those little buttons all true. I didn't cut that very square, did I? And I've trimmed down those bits there because I was going to fold them under, but my switches are actually a little closer to the edge than I would have, you know, initially wanted. Doesn't have to be that square, it's going to be covered up anyway. Just round off that corner just a scotch. I don't really know why I'm sanding that, the sanding stuff was just over there, and so that's going to sit in like so. I wouldn't mind sort of rounding off that edge or filing that and sanding it, just smoothing it out a little bit, softening that edge now. So we'll probably do that. There it is. You roll the tape. Always a bit hard finding the end. I'm just going to use a bit of tape to put some guides down on here and protect the outer finish a little bit. Yes, I'm just going to round off that edge a little bit. I'm not sure what width at this point. Maybe I don't know. Maybe a power file, maybe? Right, sort of done a bit of filing and a bit of power filing and stuff, so I'm just getting in here with a bit of 150 on just, you know, sandpaper. And I'll work my way down, sort of try and smooth out my file marks and that gouge that I put in there. Hopefully, got a little bit overzealous with the old power file. The old belt snapper 2.0. But this one doesn't belt snap. This one doesn't snap belts. Oh, pissed me off. I've done that. I've dug a bit of a hole in there. So can I file that out? Okay, so I probably had the camera pointing at the wrong place, I don't know, but that's all I'm going to do to that. It's a little bit, I kind of screwed up and slipped with the drill and gouged it on the side. I could go in and sand it all up more. I might do that at a later stage, but I don't want to spend that time on it today. So that's those kind of pieces done. Well, still got to cover that, and still got to cover this part, and we'll then move on to the next stage of this challenge. Okay, so got me a little piece of vinyl, like self-adhesive black, you know, so for like cutting out computer lettering, signage sort of stuff, and a little offcut there that I'm going to stick on the face of that. So just to cover the main area, if you know what I'm saying. Now I'm just going to lay it on dry. Okay, so just folding all these over onto the other side, and this will hopefully give me a little bit of thickness so my switches don't rattle around too much. Hopefully. I think I got a little bit of crap under the vinyl, but that'll be alright. Okay, so there's my switch panel. We'll just have a quick look, see what it looks like in here. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, good. There's a little bit of flex in it, but that'll be alright. That switch is feels a bit weird. Might swap that one out. But anyway, that's what it's going to look like. So that's me switch panel. For the most part, it'll be those three that you use kind of all the time. These are just like for correcting, you know, evening out the pressure, hopefully. Okay, so fellas, I'll put crooked on there. I've just done all of this and made a kind of like a color code chart, because my colors change from this harness to this harness, which is a nuisance, but I've written a map so I know what to do when I get to the other end, hopefully. So I've just soldered them all together into a nice little bunch, I guess. And now I'm just putting some vinyl tape around them for support. I wonder if I should do a double layer just for a bit of extra, you know what I'm saying? Might do. Right, so I was going to put some heat shrink on that too, actually. Because I can do that. Feed it down the other end. Just put another little bit just to catch the end. Doesn't really seem to be shrinking a hell of a lot, this particular brand. There we go. Alright, so that's that added into there. Now, I'm trying to decide what to do at the other end, at this end, whether I put plugs on, because I've got to get it through my grommets and stuff. Might have a look. Okay, so slowly freezing to death down here. It's actually really cold and quite miserable out there today, and so it just makes it cold by default here in the garage. So back on this, what have I been doing? That's right, I put plugs on and I've made like a little sub harness, and then I've put two plugs on like this just to make it easier to disconnect, and these plugs will fit through my grommet sort of thing to feed all my wiring up the front. So the next kind of puzzle is how to make all of this work. Now, my other diagram here is not quite correct now because I changed the configuration of my 3 center switches. And so I've kind of just written on there what they are, just so I don't, because I'm going to have this flipped over that way. I don't want to get all confused and have the left and the rights all around the wrong place, you know what I'm saying? All in one breath. So I'm just trying to figure out the kind of cleanest way to land all my wires. Now I've broken these off into my fronts and rears. Is that right? Yeah, left rear, right rear, left rear. Yeah, so my fronts and rears. So one of these groups of 4, this is all my fronts and this is all my rears. So I'm just trying to figure out whether to kind of like land them in the middle and then jump off from there, but I might end up with too many wires in, you know, my central things, or whether I just sort of start from one place and, you know, or do I kind of land these in all 4 corners and then jump to the, you know, have 3 wires coming off there, you know what I mean? I don't know, I'm thinking about it, but yeah, so I'll do a little bit more thinking and kind of get this dialed in, then I'll bring this back and show you, because I'm not going to be talking much. I'll explain it hopefully when it's done, and hopefully it'll work. Okay, so it's a couple of hours later. I have to take my intelligent glasses off, but we have this. It's like you're probably thinking, what is this going on here? But obviously, you know, we're just kind of like having a crack. So yeah, so we've got everything coming in for our all up and all down, and then we split off for the front ups and front downs, and then we split off for the rear ups and rear downs, and then we split off again to the individual corners, you know, right rear up, right rear down, sort of rah-de-rah-de-rah. Like I did cock it up. I had, for some reason, I just split that down the middle and went ups and downs, and these are actually not separated in ups and downs. They're actually just kind of a bit of a half and half. So it doesn't really matter. So all I've got left to do is to make my power harness pigtail, which is going to go onto there, but not today. It's like, it's only just after 5, but it's freezing. Like the temperature's dropped something phenomenal this afternoon, so my nose is running and my toes are cold, so I'm going to call it a day for today and go upstairs and have a warm drink of sorts. So back tomorrow. Got to do some oil changes on the daily drivers tomorrow, but if it's raining we won't be moving either of these outside, so we might just finish this up. See you tomorrow. Morning, it's the next day. So I've just been getting ahead and I've just made my that's my kind of 12-volt circuit, so that's going through all the center of all the toggles. Is that one plugged in properly? Now it is. I took this back off again, namely because I plugged them all in 180 degrees out, so I'd plugged in all the ups and the down places and the downs and up places. So, and as I was doing that, I broke a wire off, so I had to kind of fix that up again. This particular stuff here, I may end up replacing that down the track. I think it's going to be problematic as far as wire breakages go. Bit of a pain because it's a single core wire, and once it's kind of crimped and stuff, and if you gnar it at all with the wire strippers, you can kind of put a weak point in it, and I've broken a couple so far. So I remember when I was looking for something to use for that, I couldn't find anything local that was like a light gauge but multi-strand, you know, like a 8-core loom type cable. Not local just to walk in off the street that I could see anyway. There might be, you know, maybe even TWL might have something like that on the shelf, on the roll. I could go and have a look, but I'll carry on for now anyway and see that since I've come this far, basically all I've got to do is plug all that back in, take it over to the car, earth out that end of the cable, power up this end of the cable, and see if it all works. So that's where we're at. So I'll just get ahead and plug all these back in, hopefully in the right place this time, and then we can go and maybe kind of do a bit of a temporary patch in and see what it's doing. Okay, so I've got it hooked up into my, temporary hooked upness, and up the back there we've got it plugged in, but just running through the floor at the moment. I just want to make sure everything works and whatnot before I kind of run the cables a bit more. Yeah, so we're kind of all ready to go. Sadly overnight my air leaked out. Still got about 20 pounds in the back, or in the compressor in the back in the tank. I don't know what's in the bags, but yeah, it's kind of settled down again. So I'm just going to hit the key and hope nothing catches on fire, but the compressors will kick in. No, the battery's not hooked up. I'll hook the battery up and then I'll charge up the compressors and the tank and see what she does. So got that on there. Oh shit. There we go. Okay, so compressors fully charged, well, the tank's fully charged, compressors are cut off. It's still sitting at about 38 pound in the front, 31 in the back. I think I left it at about 65 to, pardon me, maybe about 30-ish in the back. So I don't think the back dropped, but it hadn't completely drained away. So let's have a look at our little control panel. Hopefully see our gauge at the same time. I'll nice to be able to see what's going on. I really should mount this somewhere. I'm not quite sure what to do with it yet. Alright, so if we go, oh, and we got this up the right way. What was that? That's back. Okay, so I think I got this upside down. What? Okay, so that was a bit of a fail actually. Every button I pushed basically was all up, all down. So I have somehow managed to cross something over quite significantly, and I don't really know how. It doesn't make sense. I mean, surely this is clear as mud, and it should just work at this point. What have I don't know what I've done. I mean, everything I worked out was by my logic, which is okay. That's, to be fair, sometimes a little flawed. Should have worked. Yeah. But I wonder if it's something to do with, I don't know. I'm gonna have to have to try and figure this out. That was really anticlimactic. I was thinking, yeah, you just this electrical wizard here making this complex thing like that, and I was expecting maybe one corner not to work properly or something like that, but yeah, essentially none of it worked as it should, other than the all up, all down button. But okay, well, that's a pain. I'm gonna have to ponder this. Okay, so I have ended up making up new kind of harnesses now. I haven't put all the kind of center buttons in yet. I just wanted to kind of tag it in there and just see whether there was a problem with how my wiring was communicating with the manifold. And it's fine. Like now if I go left up, I can do, you know, my individual corners as they should. Yeah, it's a bit hard to do one-handed, especially when I've just got all the wires kind of balanced. So what I've got to test now is if I kind of piggyback onto my middle switches and see what happens, whether there's some kind of backfeed, which I think that's what was happening before. I was getting some kind of weird reaction where it doesn't matter what button I hit. This one here is faulty too, actually. It's not working going down properly. Doesn't matter what button I hit, I was getting either, you know, all the front up, all up or all down. It was just all or nothing. So I've got some little alligator clip pigtail things over there, so I might start running jumpers across these and do a little bit of testing and see what happens when I start crossing into the middle switches the way I think it should work. I went, studied it, and I'm sure this is how I've done it before, like with my old system, but I didn't have the all up or all down. I just had front up, front down, and then the four corners. I think that's how I had it set up, but I'll have a look at that and see if I can make it work. Okay, so I got this mess here with clips and diodes and stuff. I've just shot into town and picked up a bunch of diodes and been doing a little bit of experimenting with how to make this shit all work using diodes to stop the backfeed, because I was doing a little bit of research on the interweb when mate of mine rung up and we were having a yarn about it, as you do, and he said something about diodes, and I was like, that could work if I understood what diodes did. So I had to research what diodes do, and they stop the direction of travel of current going back the ways, which is where all my problems lay, sort of thing. So I've just been doing a little bit of testing with these like alligator clips and whatnot. That one in the middle there, I was just testing running it across from the all down to all up, you know, scenario across to the front, up and down, and it seems to work. So I might kind of tidy this up a bit and then put some clips and that on, and probably do some soldering and all sorts of stuff like that to try and figure this figure this thing out, and yeah, then see if I can hook it up and get it all to work properly. Round two. Okay, hey guys, so it's been a few hours, I have to admit, but we had a little bit of a hangout with the grandson, so I'm sitting on this really uncomfortable unupholstered floor. I've been soldering and stuff, and first attempt nothing worked other than the four corners, because I'd soldered my diodes in kind of back to front somewhere, and I've just figured out which bit I'd soldered in back to front. I was trying to figure out the direction that the current needs to go in, sort of thing, and these two here I've got round the wrong way. I just did a little test which I can't really replicate with the camera because I just like held that on there, got connection, and now my center one's working because it wasn't working before. And that's these two diodes here. The little silver bar needs to be at the other end for to get the right direction. So I've got to pull that back out and redo those middle ones choice. But I didn't buy enough, so I bought 10 thinking that'll be heaps. I actually need 12. That's a lot of little diodes to go in there, because I don't want to run the risk of trying to double any of them up, because I think that'll just kind of think it's the same circuit, maybe something like that. I suppose I probably could have run that one into the center and then just a single one across. Oh, that doesn't make any difference. It's still short. I'll run both of those into the center. Yeah, no, it doesn't make a difference. I'm too short, that many. So I'll have to pick up some more of those during the week. But we are running out of weekend. This, I was hoping to get the console in and show you what it would all look like in there. I mean, now it's getting a bit kind of janky because like I've had the switches in and out and all of that stuff over and over and over again, and now everything's kind of getting a bit loose, so I'm going to have to revisit my panel, I guess, at least figure out a way to kind of get the switches in locked in nice and tight. But yeah, that's where we're at. So I've got all my 4 corners and that work individually. I can sort of show you some stuff. So I can go up on the left front, right front, left front, right rear, left rear. Okay, and so yeah, I've got the downs hooked up, and also the downs here work, but just not the all up, all down. So that's why that's those 2 little diodes there that are in the wrong polarity, wrong direction. So I'll pull all that stuff back out, but can't hear it now, but I could hear like a hissing noise from in there before. Well guys, we're on the right path with my diode thing. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I had soldered them all in, well, 2 of them in wrong, and that was making none of it work properly. Just got the directions back to front. But yeah, it's dark outside. I've run out of weekend. Again, this took me way longer than I thought it was going to because of just my ass backwards thinking about how to stack that wiring to make those middle 3, you know, switches work. And ultimately I couldn't have been more wrong. But it is what it is. But anyway, that's my little switch panel that's going to go in there. I showed it to you earlier in this video, I think. I was hoping to have this all in and get all the final wiring dialed up for the air ride, you know, actually wired in properly and not just, you know, chocolate blocked into the console, into the because I want to get that tidied up. Got one more little project to do, electrical stuff, and then I've got to get up under the dash and just tidy everything up as much as I can. It's pretty good outside of under the dash, but up under there it's a bit of a mess. So it'll be about 400 zip ties locking all that down. But yeah, it's definitely coming together. I think that'll work. I've got to mount the gauge actually. Oh yeah, might have an idea for that, where to put it, somewhere tidy and kind of efficient. But anyway, that's where we're going to leave this video. Just want to shout out to Cliff in the UK. Cliff tried to send me some number plate lights from the UK for the back of the Area 51, and they just got lost in the post. They made it as far as New Zealand and then disappeared, so that's pretty typical of it, kind of freight handover. I don't know how these outfits stay in business. It's probably why New Zealand Post's in trouble. Really appreciate the sentiment and the effort that Cliff, cheers mate, what you went to try and get me those bloody lights, but I imagine you're pretty gutted that they disappeared, and I'm, disappointed that I didn't get to see what you sent me and, see how we make that work. But yeah, so that's where we're going to leave this video. Don't forget you can get your cool as DMAC Customs merch on the dmaccustoms.com. You can actually, there's also a link on the YouTube homepage, the channel page, pardon me. And yeah, pretty easy to go and buy some stuff, and hopefully it doesn't get screwed up and shipping and postage and stuff like that with all these countries now not shipping in and out of the US. I don't know what's going on there. It's all to do with tariffs and rah, but they're just doing themselves a disservice, I think. But yeah, so don't forget we're on Instagram, Facebook, right here on the YouTube, most importantly. And as always, thanks heaps for watching and supporting the channel. And until next time, take it easy and peace. Hopefully next video, we'll just get this air ride shit just sorted out. I'm sick of it myself, so